Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here. I'm Drew Delaware. I'm head of marketing here at Gubagoo, and I'm truly honored to host today's VIP book launch event and to introduce and interview live the one and only Brian Pasch. Brian is an author. Here he is. He's an author, speaker, and industry thought leader. He runs two fantastic conferences, including the upcoming Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. And he's also the founder of PCG Digital. And we're here to celebrate the launch of Remote Retailing Blueprint, Modern Merchandising, Marketing, and Sales Strategies for Automotive Retailers. You're a busy guy, Brian. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. And it's so fun to do a book launch event, especially in the virtual world. And everyone who watches today, we have two special book bonuses. So I'm going to make it really easy for you to get a copy of this book and leverage some other educational materials as well.
Great. Well, thank you for being here, Brian. And just as far as format for our upcoming hour, I'm going to start by just having a nice fireside. Can we still call it a fireside chat, a Zoom side chat?
Sure. It's like a New York City firewall, fire and brick wall event.
Yes. So I'll be asking Brian some questions to kick it off. And then we'll throw it open for questions from those of you who are here attending. Feel free, if you have questions that come up as you're listening to Brian speak throughout the event, just drop them into the Q&A or the chat. Very happy to keep an eye on that, and we'll make sure that they get answered towards the end of the event. So with that, Brian, let's jump in, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, well, let's start, Brian. What had you decide that this was the book that you needed to write, and why now?
Well, 2 years ago, I wrote a book called Just Faster, which was the first book to be published in our industry about modern retail, digital retailing. But the problem was we didn't have enough field data. This was at the early times where Gubagoo was coming out with their virtual retailing tools. Everyone was coming to market. We knew we had to do something, but let's just say the acceleration wasn't really there. We didn't have COVID. And now that we had a few years of experience with remote reeling technology, I said, hey, this is the time to get a book out and kind of follow up with real practical step-by-step examples how to really reimagine automotive retail.
So Brian, clearly you had to do a ton of research for this book. Writing a book is quite the undertaking. I'm sure you had to sit down with your family and say, okay, I'm doing it again. Here I go.
That's right. Like, I do it in chunks, right? So I didn't understand this. I was listening to one of my favorite authors, and he was saying, hey, when I write a book, I literally go away and isolate myself. And I didn't understand. I was like, that's kind of weird. It's kind of extreme. But that's how I work. I kind of work in a very focused, short time, because if you write a book over a long time, your voice change. You change. And so in order for a book to be concise, to really flow, it has to be written in a relatively short period of time.
Cool. So as you did research for this book, Brian, what did you learn that was completely new for you?
Well, I think what the biggest takeaway from this research, this book, is that dealers were sold on the idea that they could make it easier for consumers to buy. But most of the solutions were presented as a technology enhancement to their website, and there wasn't a lot of coaching around the marketing and merchandising, the communication strategies, the connecting online to showroom. And so dealers were like, yeah, I have this tool on my website, but it's not really working that well. And when I unwound it, it was that it really takes a significant change management process at the dealership to change the way business is done. It is not a 30-day install and some, few hours of training.
Sure. Yes. As you know, Brian, I'm a big believer as well that it's the strategy that really changes whether digital retailing is software that's useful and productive, or shelfware, right? So
That's right.
So we really try to do as much as we can to coach our clients around strategy here at Gubagoo. What surprised you the most as you were putting this book together? It's always a journey. There's got to be some surprises along the way.
Yeah, one of the things that surprised me is that how many people rushed into this solution set for dealers. There was people from fintech, really had no automotive experience. They just understood banking. They had people who came from the dealer world and kind of built a product. We had folks that started on the website and then eventually worked on the showroom. We had people who started in the showroom and then built on the website. So there was no clear starting point, and they had one commonality. No one, and I still think today we don't know how to answer this. How do we measure success? And at the upcoming Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, we have a panel discussion on this. How do we measure remote retailing or digital retailing success? Everyone has a different opinion. And with the change that's required of the dealer, you would think that there would be a clearer set of answers on key performance indicators or KPIs, or how do we know if it's working or not?
So when you think of that, then Brian, what do you look at when you're working with clients and helping dealers out in the field? What KPIs are you looking at to determine success?
Right. So before even approaching that KPI question, and I don't want to push it off, but I will say that I think 8 out of 10 dealers are not fully committed, period, to remote retailing. And this is hard for most dealers to hear. You see, they put remote retailing on their website, but there's no commitment that they want to drive the consumers through the tool. So my biggest problem with KPIs, and is it working, is that dealers are not all in. So they'll put, for example, a Gubagoo virtual retailing button, which has the ability to get a payment, to value their trade, to be pre-approved, all in that button. And then they'll put a conflicting trade button, they'll put a conflicting finance button, they'll put of unlock price, they'll put, schedule a test drive. And there's 7 buttons, and they're saying, well, this isn't really working. And I'm like, well, what's the process you want them to go through? Oh, I want them to go through the digital retail. Great. Let's get rid of those other buttons. They're all here. Oh, I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? It might scare the customer. I'm like, scare the customer? This customer doesn't even know what they should do. Why don't you define the path for them more clearly? So KPIs, Drew, are so hard because I don't think dealers really want to simplify the online experience, and then that pollutes the data about how consumers want to shop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really the KPIs need to take into consideration the overall process and strategy in the store. And if that's not clear, then it's really difficult to have KPIs that are clear, right? So in many ways, it all boils down to that strategy. Are dealers, in your experience, buckling down now and really digging into, what's our strategy going to be, that this is something important?
Well, that's why, I made this a spiral bound book, because basically dealers can get to a page, sit it down, and start working through examples. So what I tried to do early on the book is say, do you have a clear brand promise, a brand message for the experience that you want to create, especially dealers who want to make it faster, easier, mostly online? Okay, are you merchandising it? Okay, we're going to call it Fast Lane. Great. Is it merchandised? And then when I get to that SRP and VDP, is it clear? Is there one button that's green that stands out, that pushes people through your fast lane technology? Have you simplified? You know what? Honestly, most dealers like, oh, I never looked at it that way. Like, yeah, why do I have 2 schedule a test drives? Why do I have ask a question when the messaging is right there? They don't have that set of eyes. So with this book, and also my brother Glenn and I have a 60-day transformation program that we work with any digital retailing technology just to help them create those assets, clarify their marketing, simplify their website. Either way, we're seeing more of that. And there are extreme cases. There's a dealer that followed the playbook here in this new book, and their VDPs have one call to action button. And when they did that, here, talk about KPIs now, watch this, 600% increase in activity through the digital retailing tool, with a 400 and something % increase in real contact information. And here's what the general manager said. It's like, I read your book, we decided to call it something. That's the way we do business. So why have 6 buttons? There's only one way that we do business. If you want to price your car, if you want to get a trade value, if you want to schedule a test drive, if you want to play with anything, just go through. We only have one process. This is our process. And guess what? Hitting all sorts of sales records at the same time. Oh, but this is, someone says, hey, if we're going to do remote retailing, and we can pick up where the consumer left off online in the store, why wouldn't we be all in? And the answer is, we are chasing dead KPIs like lead form fills and not actual sales conversations.
Thanks for sharing that, Brian. So yeah, that's fantastic results. And I know you've been working with several Gubagoo clients as well. And
that's right.
Certainly grateful for that. And a lot of that wisdom is in the book. So in the book, I've got a quote that I'd like to share with.
Come on, bring it on. If it's a quote from the book, it must be brilliant. So come on, share it.
Well, here it is. I like it. Dealers tell me that selling cars is all about price. However, I wonder if the reason why it is all about price is because websites make price the center of attention and not the vehicle. So, Brian, could you share more with us about your thoughts here? This is a biggie.
Well, it's sometimes people have a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's like, hey, consumers really don't care about me, it's all about price, and they'll drive down the street to save $50. And I'm like, well, let's take a look at your website. You have the MSRP, and then you have some, discounts, and then you say the Pasch price, and then you have a button that says, get today's price or get our best price. And I'm like, do you understand what you're doing? Here's the car with all the photos. Your photos look ugly. You could put 360 spin technology in. You could really make the car to star, but you don't. And what you do, instead of saying, what's the affordability? Can I afford this car? What's my payment? Everyone is pretty much a payment shopper. You play a game. Well, we have to, Brian, because that's how we get leads. And I'm like, well, what if that wasn't the way we need to do business? What if we said, let me help you now configure the affordability. Let's pick lease or finance or cash, and let's do it together. Let's help them when they're on their website, not chase them later in the BDC. And dealers are starting to realize, wow, I never looked at it that way. If I say, here's the best price, and then I have a button that says, get the best price, what am I telling the consumer? Here's what you're telling the consumer. Any price that's on this page is completely worthless. And, you know, dealers don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it. But I'm going to tell you, there's no other retail experience that you could find that does that to a consumer. When someone goes to Macy's or when someone goes to Amazon, there's the price. If it's crossed out because there's a discount, that's the price. It's not like, hey, you want these shoes? Fill out a form and maybe you'll get, you know, a better deal. No, it's like, here's the price. And say, well, Brian, the cars business is different. But I'm just going to tell you that the growth of independents like a Carvana or CarMax that are just super making it so simple for people to buy cars. Tesla and now others, you know, Chinese car manufacturers are coming into the country. If we don't simplify our website and just say, this is the way we do business, let's give you a fair market price. Well, you know, I don't think it's going to be a very painless growth, you know, for dealers in the years ahead.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're putting the focus here, Brian, on the customer experience. You know, the trendy term for that is CX. And while it's all the buzz, right now it's a buzz for a reason, because we need to think of our customers when we're developing processes. And the more we listen to our customers and what they want, the more we're able to design experiences that they love and will give us great reviews for and give us their money, right?
Well,
as a result of
you know, listen, you know, there's a lot of talk about COVID and what has happened in retail during COVID. So let me kind of separate two observations in retail during COVID. People are spending more time at home. You and I know that. We're not traveling as much. And as a result, people spending more time at home looking at the paint or the rug or whatever. And so Home Depot and Lowe's and Bed Bath Beyond are hitting all-time records because people are reinvesting in their homes. That is a result of staying home. Let's put those people off to the side. The businesses that have been thriving are those that have been able to adapt commerce to make it faster and easier. So the restaurants that have integration with a DoorDash or an Uber Eats, the people who have a drive-through, the people who have a better mobile app. And the theme here is that faster and easier, Best Buy, drive up to the curb, right? Bed Bath & Beyond just reported earnings last night. It's been a 3-year disappointing run if you were a stockholder. Their stock was up 30% yesterday. Why? New CEO, transformed the way people bought, added technology. And here's the story he told yesterday on CNBC, is that we invested in technology to make it faster and easier and more convenient. There are dealers still today that are fighting me that convenience doesn't matter. It's all about price. And I'm just going to tell them over and over again, if it was just about price, you should get out of business. Because if it's not about the experience, there's other Ford dealers in the area. If it's just about price, how could you have confidence that somebody else isn't going to come into market, a Chinese company that's going to sell cars $20,000 cheaper than your Ford Explorer? You know what I mean? It has to be about the experience and the quality of that experience. It's not price. I don't care personally if I spend $269 a month on a lease or $279 a month on a lease. If $269 means I have to spend 3 hours in the dealership, no, I'll spend the $279. Now, Brian, you're the exception rather than the rule. Starbucks is the most expensive coffee on the planet. Why aren't people going to 7-Eleven? Some do. Why aren't people going to Dunkin' Donuts? Some of them do. But Starbucks coffee is by far 30, 40, even 50% higher than anybody else. They made it faster and easier, more convenient. They made an experience. The place smells awesome. Okay, why are dealers fighting that it's all about price? It's not all about price. It's about faster, easier, and the customer experience.
Whole Foods is another great example of that, right? Nickname whole paycheck. Why do people do it? It's because of a fantastic experience. They uplifted the experience. So
Yeah.
that really resonates, Brian. So you've seen a lot of digital retailing operations as you researched this book. What do you feel are the most important factors in digital retailing success? We've talked about a couple. What are the other hidden treasure troves that you've discovered?
Yeah, and this statement that I'm making sounds like a little kissing up to Gubagoo, but I'm talking just from a real practical experience, is that when someone comes to the dealer's website, if we really treated it as a digital showroom or a virtual showroom, we know that customers have questions and they don't know how to, at times, properly decode their car for a trade-in value. We know that they don't know sometimes how to properly fill out a finance application, which means any dealer knows that a consumer has questions. And so one of the key aspects of digital retailing success is, are we providing live, instantaneous support when the customer's on our website? And of course, Gubagoo has really world-class communication tools with, screen sharing and video presentation capabilities, but it's also site aware. So the other day I was on a dealer's website, and I'm always a student of testing, and they moved one of the call to action buttons from a form to a conversation, which is what I've been preaching. So I tested it. So it was like, get our best price, which I hate that button, but okay, get our best price, because it said best price already, but they said get best price. And the chat operator, how can I help you? Now, first of all, I didn't like that, because I clicked the button that said guess best price. I want that person to say, hi, this is Brian. I'm a real person, and I'm here to get your best price. Who am I speaking with? And you would say, Drew. So contextually, they did not start the communication right. Second, I just did what I thought a consumer would do. It's like, okay, what's the best price on this car? And the response was, what car? I'm like, the page that I'm on, like this car. And I'm like, I can't see where your page, I can't see where you're at. Give me the stock number. Hello. So I really think that one of the fundamental, now not all digital retailing platforms believe in integrated communication. I just believe wholeheartedly that we need to staff our virtual showrooms. We got to be there to ask questions, and we need to be contextually present and visibly present. And that's why the dealers who are using your particular tool set have a competitive advantage if they want to staff their virtual showroom with their own employees during the day, during business hours. They have a competitive advantage because they can double their sales conversations with people in the market to buy a car, double compared to popping up lead forms and chasing them later.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see on top of that 90%, there's a 90% increase to show rate in the dealership if the dealership staff jump in to the conversation, right? It's great if our team handles the chat. We'll do as good a job as we possibly can do with the tools we do. And that's, of course, a reason why many dealerships choose Gubagoo. And we've got a fantastic trained staff, 5 weeks of training, and specialize in F&I.
Which is impressive.
However, there's nothing like having your dealership jump in. Really, rather than thinking of Gubagoo as managing your chats, think of us as the backup. We're here to be there when you need us, but if you can be there as a dealership, it's even stronger. So yes.
Yeah, and Drew, I'd like to address that, because there are some dealers say, Brian, we're not staffed for that. And I'm like, okay, get over yourself, staff for that. And they look at me like, no, you don't understand. Like, we're not set up for that. And I say, stop. reimagine what retail looks like. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, if somebody walks in your showroom today, I don't care if 5 people walked in or 10 people, you would greet them, you would ask them their questions, and you would start them through a process. Your virtual showroom should be no different. And so when you can answer questions with competent people, people who can make decisions, people who know the current incentives or rebates or qualifications for an advertised offer, you build credibility, you create that wow experience. Listen, as best training as possible, there's no way a chat operator would know that there was a local storm or a local fire, or there was a hailstorm. And it's like, hey, are you running any specials for hail? It's like, oh, well, I don't know, you know. But if it was a store employee, they'd be like, absolutely, yes, we have a special sale going on with some hail damaged cars, whatever. I know that sounds like a crazy example, but there are scenarios that are going on right now in California with the wildfires that would be hard for a centralized chat center to know specifically what's going on in these areas. So if we have a sense that we would make more money, and first of all, you will, and we would create a better satisfaction with the customer, and you will, and you sell cars at a higher gross, and you will, then get over yourself, rebuild your staffing model so that when somebody presses a button like unlock price or get e-price or personalize my payments, whatever, that you're there. And I'm not saying a sales manager has to jump in, but how about this? Value my trade. Why wouldn't the used car manager say, hey, I'm the used car manager, real person. I'm here to help you value your trade. Well, Brian, if we did that, that would take up a lot of their time. Yeah, but aren't you telling me you can't find good used cars at an affordable price? Didn't you tell me if you could get someone to come in to trade in their car, you probably could sell them a car? Well, why wouldn't you start doing that? Is your used car manager so busy during the day he couldn't talk to another 10 or 20 people who want to trade in their car? I never thought of it that way. And if there was more, I'd even hire an assistant to help. Yes, you would. Instead of paying $2,000 or $3,000 a hire for cars at Manheim, bring them in. But you have to reimagine retail.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks for that, Brian. So when we're thinking about this concept of staffing and so forth, I know you put a lot of effort into the book around cost savings and how this actually transforms even on a business level and a profit level. Can you jump into that a little bit?
Sure. And for our viewers today, they probably heard this, that COVID accelerated change in a very short period of time. Yesterday on CNBC, and I watch not a lot of TV, but I do watch CNBC, and one commentator had said that retail has evolved 10 years in 6 months, 10 years. I was using maybe 5, but here's what we learned. When the states shut down car dealers because they were non-essential, and then eventually allowed them to open for limited services, digital retailing, I'm sure your phones, like other companies, were just ringing off the hook, right? And here's what they found. They could sell the same number of cars with about half the people. But it took in a sense, a nuclear bomb called COVID to blow up our current retail thinking. Gina Walsh from the Cavalli Group, who has stores in Florida and in California specifically, is a data-driven organization, and he has a metric, and I forget what the abbreviation is, but it's the total cost per retail sale, which brings in all the labor costs, right? That's the biggest piece, that variable piece. And they saw a 33% reduction in the cost to sell a car. Total cost, total loaded cost. And I was like, that money goes right to the bottom line. And at the same time, gross was up, right? Yeah, PVR was up. So if you told a dealer your cost per retail sale would go down 33% and your profit would increase if you just embraced remote retailing, you know, some people are going to still say, no, I don't want to change. And that's fine. But I will tell you that in a compressed market where there is limited inventory or economic forces that we don't understand anymore, like this COVID thing took everyone by surprise, it's the nimble companies, the companies who have a true variable cost model, people that can serve the customer in any scenario are the ones that can win. And this kind of move, this book on remote retailing really shows that the old, I don't know what they called them, 10 car Tony or whatever, we are seeing clients now taking 10 car Tony and they're selling 20 cars a month. And guess what? Tony's happier. Everyone's happier in the dealership. You're making more money and the customer's happier. Why? We're serving the customer when they're on our website in a way that they want to do business. We're not chasing them in the BDC with 12 phone calls and 16 emails. Everyone's happier. It's more efficient, which means the profits go right to the bottom line.
Great, thank you for that, Brian. So for those who are attending, I've got one more question for Brian, and then I'm going to jump to your questions. So feel free to drop that into
come on, ask me some
Q&A.
tough questions.
Yeah. Let's see what we can toss Brian's way. So while they're doing that, Brian, what do you think is the future for digital retailing? We've gone so far, as you just said, in the last few months, really. And where does it go from here? Where are we at now, and where are we going?
Well, I was just talking to one of your clients, Dan Grissom from Auburn VW, and I was saying, well, we really don't sell cars online. He said, no, I am. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, yeah, we got Gubagoo VR. We're selling cars online. I was like, ooh, he's aggressive. I like that. I think that the technology and the cost savings the future is gonna be states changing wet signature laws. I think there's gonna be a movement that the automotive industry is going to press for some of these archaic motor vehicle registration systems. In some states, they're so archaic, they've been holding back a complete transaction. I think we're going to see better integration with some of these special pricing scenarios, especially like in Michigan, where you have so many like employee price combinations and matrices. I think we're just going to get better at getting the numbers right, more instant decisioning. I think that the OEMs are working hard with the DMS providers and the Route 1s of the world and others, dealer tracks of the world, to really create a more open, competitive landscape. It was really closed down. So I think the future is going to be market forces forcing people to take down some of these walled gardens, data sharing, better calculations, and let the customer experience drive the future instead of hobbled customer experiences. So I think the companies like yourself that are really focused on the customer experience, that have the technology to assist instead of chase, are going to be the winners. But still, you're going to need some cooperation with states, with motor vehicle, and with data integrators to really have a transaction that is penny perfect and accurate and representative of what would be the experience in the dealership.
Mm-hmm. Great. That's certainly what we're all driving towards, and it's a journey with lots of interesting roadblocks.
It's far from perfect.
Yeah, interesting roadblocks along the way, that's for sure. So we do have a question that's come in, and
Right.
that's using a tool like Gubagoo with the invite feature gives a dealership so many more opportunities to serve customers. Brian, have you seen any data on the success of using that type of feature that engages leads, that contacts a dealer through other channels, through third-party leads or Facebook Marketplace leads, et cetera, and drives them back into a digital retailing experience?
You know, for years we've been talking about first quality response, right? And some of the OEMs have the stop the clock, right? So the clock stops when the OEM says you've delivered a personalized or quality or first quality response. The data is clear. The email templates and the days is like, hey, I see you're interested in the car. When do you want to come in? You know, those templates, believe it or not, are still being pushed out, even in states where, you know, everyone's freaking out about COVID. Hello, you know, so here's the email open and response rates when you can push out, here's the complete deal jacket, you know, for this car. Go ahead, just click on the link and you could, you know, work the lease payments or the finance, meaning here's everything. We're just different. We're not going to cat and mouse you to death. I'm not going to send you 20 emails. Just click on this link and start playing. And if you have any questions, our team will be there live to help. I mean, think about that. In my experience, we're seeing 300, 400% increase in lead engagement because, you know, if you say you can do everything, you can get all your questions answered by clicking on this one link, that's so refreshing other than the tease game. So
Yeah, so
why
back and
wouldn't
forth.
why wouldn't we do it? Why wouldn't we do it?
Absolutely, and it creates a great customer experience, and that really is sales acceleration. Brian, you and I jumped on for your podcast a couple of days ago, talking
Yeah,
about sales acceleration, and you're suddenly moving a lead into opportunity mode. Right? They're no
that's
longer a
right.
lead. They're engaged. They're ready to buy. They're matching their budget. They're doing all those things that are all about, I'm here, I'm ready to go. So you've moved someone through that funnel so much more quickly.
Absolutely. And by simplifying the email response to saying, here's a link where you could really do everything, your email delivery is better because you're not sending like the kitchen sink email. And even some of the DR tools, as they are penciling the deal, will show other or similar cars, right? You know, depending on the tool. And why is that important? Well, oftentimes these kitchen sink emails, there's a lot of details about the car. And here's 12 other cars you want to maybe consider. But oftentimes those emails get thrown into spam. So having a simpler, cleaner, direct response and say, listen, I see you're on cars.com. And I think the responses should be specific to the platform. So if you get a lead in from cars.com, and you should say, hey, thanks for shopping on cars.com. And I see you requested some information. We have our new fast lane technology, which allows you from the comfort of your home to see your lease payments or finance, estimate your trade, schedule a test drive, everything just by clicking this one link. We've given you full control of the buying process. You know, that's the difference that we offer with our fast lane technology. Why wouldn't the consumer click on that?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the emails like, hey, we got your information, when you want to come in, or hey, we got your information, did you want leather or cloth seats, or hey, we got your information, someone will be calling and abusing your phone line for the next 10 days, get ready for it. Okay.
Yeah, great. Another question came in. What has been the best way you've found to get a dealer focused on having multiple pricing CTAs to change it up to a more customer-focused approach? Is it simply showing data, or is there another method to get them on board? So it's interesting this question's coming up, Brian, because in our automotive marketing leaders coffee talk yesterday. We were talking about the challenges around navigating our internal reporting relationships, and how marketers, sometimes we can be bulls in the china shop. We come in
Yes.
saying, hey, GM, this is what you need to do. And the GM's like, hold the bus here.
That's right.
How does that conversation happen to encourage our general managers and other involved leadership to make these changes?
Yeah, so I mentioned that my brother Glenn and I have this 60-day program, right? So we sit down with a dealer who says, I really want to leverage my DR tool. And let's just say it's a Gubagoo tool. Say, great. Have you decided to call it anything? They're like, why should we call it something? We go through that. Okay, what do you want to call it? Okay, let's build some graphics for it. Okay, now let's look at the shopping experience. Let's put something on the SRP. What about the VDV? Oh, look at, and you know, when we start doing this, like this trade button takes people off to the TrueCar website. You just took someone off your website, and oh, this finance button takes them off to a third party. Or the worst is the GM Shop Click Drive, which takes them right off the. And when we sit down and say, trust us, let's simplify, and I'm not saying go down to one button, but typically 3 buttons, it works very well. And here's what I tell the dealers: you're going to get more high quality leads. You're going to have a better first impression. And not a single dealer who's gone through this transformation coaching, this 60-day coaching process, has gone back. Not a single one, because here's what they're doing. They're starting to have people fight for those leads. Instead of popping up a form, it goes right to a conversation. I have dealers who have their sales team in a round robin, right? They're grabbing, they want that. Because look, that person hasn't been beaten to death with emails and phone calls. They're a virgin shopper, and the salespeople are sitting around waiting for the up bus. And when we start telling the dealers these stories, they're like, wow, I never thought of it that way. And Brian, what's going to happen? I'm going to say, you're going to take your 10 and 12 car a month people to 20 and 25 cars. And you're going to be making more gross, and the customer is going to be happier. They're like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So it's telling a story, it's showing dealers some other websites before and after, how we transform them, and then letting them talk to the general managers. But there is not a single dealer who went from 6 buttons to 3, or 6 buttons to 2, or even 6 buttons to 1 who said, yeah, I'm going back because I like to confuse the shopper. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
That's paradox of choice, right?
Yes.
You've gotten me worked up about psychology before, and paradox of choice, the more options we have, the less likely people are to take any of them. So fewer options, super clean, crisp, clear. Yes, you're going to drive much more customer behavior. So certainly
That's
with you on that, Brian. We have a question from Chris. Does the data show that you've seen whether a domestic, an import, or a luxury brand have better success with virtual retailing, retail selling? Have you seen any trends there?
I haven't, right? So I'll never make up some stat just to feel like I always have to have an answer.
Thank you.
I haven't seen that. Now, I will say the previous example with the Cavalli Group, they are luxury brands. So Jaguar, Land Rover, Audi, okay? So, and that was, they went to remote retailing, they really leaned in and saw that 33% decrease in cost per retail sale, fully loaded with their labor costs. I've seen it work, you know, with a Nissan store, a Kia store. I've seen it work with a Mercedes and a BMW store. I think it's more about the leadership vision, because here's my belief, and you can, you know, challenge it, is that I think most consumers appreciate a business that appreciates their time. So I believe everyone can be attracted to saving time and having a better experience. I think that's universal. The lowest price, I'm not looking for the lowest price. I'm looking for the best price with the best experience. We've all paid a little bit more for that nice restaurant because you take your spouse or your friend out to special, if it was all about price, we'd only be eating at McDonald's or, Panera Bread. If you say, well, I wouldn't eat at McDonald's because it's bad food. Okay, then your night out would be Panera. No, you don't do that because you want a better experience. But you wouldn't go to a restaurant, even if you was a great food, if you had to wait 2 or 3 hours in line to get in. Like, you couldn't make a reservation. They couldn't respect your time. So I would say that it's not so much domestic or import. It's more the vision of the general manager. Do they believe that consumers value time and convenience?
Great. Thank you, Brian. So I'd like to take a pause here because we promised that that Gubagoo is going to give away 3 copies of your book
Come on.
today. And
Great.
The following people have been drawn. Thank you to my team for doing the draw behind the scenes.
Great.
And we will be sending a book to Cody Carpenter, George Jones, and William Crosscup. So congratulations to the 3 of you. You now have some fantastic tools coming into your hands. And for those who don't have a copy of your book coming from us because they're lucky winners, how do they get a copy of the new book?
Well, we have a special promotion for people who attended today and really want to lean in and get, this lovely book in full color. So if you order this book today or tomorrow, I'm going to include at no additional charge my most desired book that people love over the years. Is called Swimming with Digital Sharks. It's a book written for general managers on how to develop more confidence in their marketing strategies and using data. So if you order this book online today or tomorrow, we will ship you a Swimming with Digital Sharks book at no additional cost. And then one other thing. Dealers are always asking me, Brian, would you look at my setup? Would you look at what I'm doing? How can I get better? And a number of years ago, I created the Digital Marketing Playbook. Now, this book is about 200 pages. It has 100 playbook, step-by-step things to get better. And for Gubagoo attendees here, or any Gubagoo client, just for this month of October, we will give you a 50% off discount on this book. And the only way, it's not going to be online. You're going to just call our office and ask for Dawn. That's 732-450-8200, 732-450-8200. You say that you are at the Gubagoo webinar on the book release and you want the playbook. And this is really the most valuable book because it gives you 100 ways to improve. And just as Gubagoo has been putting out content online, really to help dealers understand that digital retailing is a massive change management process and leaning into education, I want to also help. I want to complement. So if you order just this new book, we'll send you Swimming with Digital Sharks. And if you really want to go the extra mile and really improve, you just call Dawn and mention Gubagoo and she'll give you 50% off that book.
That's fantastic. That's very generous. Thanks, Brian. And I'll make sure that anybody attending will get that information. So if you're hearing me now, we'll make sure that you've got the information that you need to take advantage.
That's right. I'm sure some people signed up and couldn't make it. Sometimes the dealership schedules are in conflict. So I'm hoping that you'll send out this video recording to the people who did register. And then this way, you can always call Dawn. If you're watching this a week later, just call Dawn at 732-450-8200 and just say, hey, I couldn't order the book in time for those 2 days. would you still honor the swimming with digital sharks? And she'll do that for you.
That's amazing. Thanks, Brian. Last but definitely not least is AAAS is coming up November 16th to the 18th.
That's correct.
Really valuable conference. That AAAS stands for Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. Don't be scared. It's exciting. It's important stuff to learn about. Why is it important right now? Why do you have a conference focused on analytics and attribution?
Because, for years, dealers saying, Brian, I got so many people selling stuff. I don't know what's really helping me sell more cars. I have no way of knowing which marketing is working, which channel is the best. What's the best way, like we were talking about today, to embrace digital retailing? So this is a show that was designed based on dealer feedback saying, Brian, I need more meat. I don't want someone to tell me how to answer a lead. I know that. I don't need someone to tell me I need a website. I believe in that. But, how do I get to the next level? So it's not a 101 basic conference. But this year, we're doing something groundbreaking, is that we're doing 4 face-offs. And what I wanted to do is try to make it easier for dealers to shop for new technology or to compare how their current technology matches up against the best in the business. So we are going to be having 6 different digital retailing companies show their products side by side and then open up for Q&A, 6 different website companies, 6 different marketing automation companies, so advertising platforms, and then 6 different digital video and OTT platforms. This is going to allow dealers to literally sit down, see 6 presentations in 1 hour, 10 minutes each, and then 30 minutes of Q&A. And we're allowing dealers in the virtual format to actually call in. So they can do just like you did today, Drew, reading the chats and messages, but we're going to also allow calling in. So we have 3 days of great content. Some innovative ways for dealers to shop for great new products, and then just hands-on workshops, training, opportunities, insights, and best of all, when they purchase their ticket, all of the workshops, panels, and keynotes will be online for 30 days, so they can go back as many times as they want and watch or rewatch a session with other members of their team. This is the best investment in education a dealership can make.
Well, I like to call myself a geek. And the geek in me gets very excited about this stuff, but you don't need to be a geek for this to be useful.
No,
right?
No,
this is
for sure.
Is for everyone. And
that's right.
And certainly the session I'll be bringing to AAAS on sales acceleration is an example of a session where it's all about delivering, really useful things that you can take back and implement right away. So fantastic. We're certainly looking forward to it as always, Brian. We wish we were seeing you in person, but
listen,
online, the way you're delivering online is amazing.
I wish I could host everyone. This conference is held in Palm Beach each year. So unfortunately, we will not have that. But the good news is our spring conference will be held in Napa. And of course, Carrie and I are praying for everyone in the path of these violent fires in Sonoma and Napa. And so please continue to pray for the wineries and the people in the hospitality industry up there are just devastated. And then next November, we'll be back in Palm Beach. So we will have a chance to cheers and have a glass of wine together with the best leaders in automotive retail.
Very much looking forward to it. And in the meantime, you put on a great virtual show. So we're appreciative. Those of us who are in the industry are appreciative of that. All right, well, we will wrap up here. Brian, any parting words, words of inspiration? Go get them.
Yeah. Well, just one message for everyone who's watching. Don't say that you're embracing digital retailing or remote retailing if you're not all in 100%. Is it clear to the consumer that there's one way to do business with you, one way to get a price, one way to get a trade? Are you all in? And all I can tell you is when you're all in, you will have a seamless experience for the consumer, whether they start online or in the showroom. And your cost of operating a business with one process that's unified and optimized for customer experience will be the most profitable dealership model that you could run.
Great. Well, thank you, Brian. On that note, go get them, everybody. And,
Come on.
yeah, and thanks for joining us today. Once again, congratulations on the launch of your new book. It's fabulous. The throngs are cheering. Wonderful.
That's great.
Congrats.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Have a great weekend.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.